How's it going, my fellow pirates, privateers, and the like? It has been a while since I've made one of these videos, my apologies for that. I've had my hands full with a lot of new video ideas as of late, so this is coming out a lot later than I would have liked, but here we are. Last time we did Assassin's Creed Mirage, and that didn't end very well. But I'm here looking for some redemption in Black Flag. Will I find it? Probably not, but someone's gotta make Party City pay. For those who aren't familiar with the lore between me and Party City, that probably makes no sense, so I'll give you the quick rundown. But I assume most of you know how these videos work. I start from the beginning of an AC game, this time being Black Flag, and I try to get as far into the game as I possibly can without being detected whilst in stealth. Black Flag is a bit unique. It has more stealth opportunities than, say, AC3 for example, which I think is going to end up being really challenging when we get to that game, but this game does still have quite a lot of forced combat sections, be that naval combat or otherwise. The opening of this game also doesn't present a whole lot of opportunity for stealth, which makes sense considering Edward isn't even an assassin at that point. And while I generally like Black Flag's modern day, it is kind of annoying to deal with for this kind of video because there is no stealth involved whatsoever. But despite all that, I had a great time returning to Black Flag for what feels like the millionth time at this point. And I think going into these games with the idea that you can't be spotted at all and have to be a true ghost makes them a lot more fun. It brings a level of focus and intensity to every encounter that you wouldn't otherwise get just running around casually and not really caring if you're detected or not. I highly recommend you guys try to play the games this way as well. It makes it a lot of fun and also very challenging. But with all of that out of the way, let's dive into the 18th century, take on Party City, and see how far I can get into Assassin's Creed Black Flag without being spotted. I think you all know how the story opens. We're immediately thrust into the action as Edward and his crew are locked in an intense fight with another ship, helmed by a mysterious-looking assassin who for some reason is just posing on his ship. I mean, unnecessary, very dangerous, and if I had a rifle you'd be dead, but you do you. No one ever accused Duncan Walpole of being an intelligent man.
Look at this dude.
But after some quick tutorial-level naval combat, I sink the opposing ships, where we're then suddenly boarded by Duncan himself, who again is trying his best to look cool and edgy for the camera, but right before he can get to Edward, the ship explodes into a flashback with Caroline. Edward expresses to Caroline that he wants to go privateering for a year or two because he's tired of living a poor life. Caroline eventually caves and asks Edward to promise her that he'll be back in no more than 2 years. Well, let's say he lost track of time.
A year, I reckon. 2 at the most.
Stop the cap!
I mean, hey, it was probably hard to keep track of the years back then, especially on the sea. Also, I always find it hilarious that so much of Black Flag's promotional material portrayed Edward to be this super mysterious pirate with some sort of personal quest and dark past.
Don't meddle in his private affairs, for there's more mystery to that man than even I dare ask.
I want food that don't make me sick.
Well, mystery solved in the first 15 minutes of the game. He's a pirate who wants money so he can live a better life. They had to have made this trailer before they knew what type of character Edward was going to be exactly. But Edward washes up on the nearby shore, where the whiteness of his teeth nearly blinded me. My goodness, what kind of teeth whitening strips was this man using?
What happened to your teeth?
I whiten them.
And then here comes everyone's favorite, super loyal, super edgy assassin, Duncan Walpole. He offers to pay Edward to get him to Havana, which first of all, how is he gonna help you? Both your ships sank and he's just a pirate. Like I said though, I've never heard anyone ever in the history of the world describe Duncan as intelligent. Duncan also foolishly offers to pay Edward, letting him know that he has money on him, and then with the remaining half a brain cell he has left, he tries to shoot Edward, but obviously the gun isn't working since he was just in the water. But he has another pistol that is actually working. I can see it on his belt and he actually shoots me with it later. So instead of running away, why didn't he just use his second pistol? Duncan Walpole, everybody. I'm starting to think this guy never even betrayed the assassins. They just kicked him out for being such a dumbass. Anyways though, Duncan runs like the little coward he is, and we've got to chase him down. A fully trained assassin, or former assassin presumably, running from the likes of a pirate. Altair is turning in his grave. I know damn well this man did not dedicate his life to this brotherhood to see idiots like this joining the creed. I'm starting to think Pierre Bellic had a point. We need to purge the brotherhood of these weaklings. But anyways, Duncan finally decides to use his working pistol and shoots me right in the chest. But because I'm Edward Kenway, I shrug off the bullet and run down Duncan, where he puts up a truly pathetic last stand. I mean, oh my lord, come on, how did you even join the assassins? You're so washed. How are you gonna get insta-counter killed by a pirate? I know it's Edward and he is crazy strong, but you literally trained for this. Nah, there's no way this guy was even a traitor. He was kicked out. That's my headcanon. I don't care. I refuse to believe anyone this sorry was ever in the Brotherhood. Send this man to Assassin's Creed Rebellion. He don't deserve to be in this game. Anyways though, with him dead and Edward honestly doing the Brotherhood and the Templars a huge service, he decides to pretend to be Duncan and infiltrate Party City himself in Havana. But you see, I was worried. I'm wearing the robes of a fraud, so I was concerned that Duncan's stupidity would somehow transfer over to me through his clothing. But wouldn't you know it, I move about 15 feet, and there just so happens to be a ship nearby, and the man who owns said ship so happens to be headed to Havana as well. Wow, what a coincidence. To be fair, it is possible that wherever we are is actually just a common route to Havana, which is why Duncan's ship was also headed through here. Either way, this is where I finally reached my first stealth section of the game thus far. Now again, stealth in Black Flag does work quite differently from a lot of the other games in the series, and a lot of the stealth missions do have a lot of bushes and tall grass meant to be used as cover. So the strategy was pretty simple. Stay in cover and move my way to each guard one by one. I didn't even have a hidden blade yet, of course, so I had to be very cautious in my approach. It was quite easy nonetheless, although it was a little more challenging trying to split up these three guards who were just puppy guarding Steed Bonnet, especially since they pretty much had every angle covered since they were facing each other. Now, normally in the past when I've played Black Flag, I would just be impatient and run straight in to kill them in combat, but obviously that was not an option here, so I figured I had to split them up one by one. So I went into the nearby bush and tried whistling each of them over, which worked for the first two guards, and luckily you can't actually be spotted while performing a cover takedown in this game. But with the third and final guard, it was a little more tricky because he was just out of my whistling range, and there was no real way for me to get behind him without being detected. So I had to take a bit more of a risky approach and get his detection meter to fill up just enough so that he'd come over to the bush to investigate. This could have gone really badly if I didn't time it right, but luckily everything worked out neatly. And with him dead, I rescued the resident comic relief character Steed Bonnet. Steed is, well, I really don't know what to say. I feel like he initially may have been meant to have a bigger role in this game, but they didn't really know what to do with him past the opening. Also, am I the only one who didn't realize Steed Bonnet was a real historical figure in Blackbeard's crew? I don't know how I never knew that before. But anyways, it's weird because Steed is heavily involved in the opening of the game, but past that, he only shows back up briefly and then meets his legendary, tragic demise off-screen. But anyways, he's not dead yet, and Edward very kindly takes his ship as his own as the dynamic duo sails off into the sunset for Havana, where I am then pulled out of the fun into the modern day, which, again, I like this modern day, but I honestly wish I could skip it for these videos because it's just not relevant at all. but we must endure it. So this woman asked me to look at some lights to make sure they didn't break my brain. She gives me some exposition about Abstergo and spouts off some Party City propaganda. You can't trust anything these costume-loving freaks say. Don't forget what they did to Bayek with their terrible return policies. As we're walking through the lobby, I spot Sean and Rebecca, and I very subtly signal to her that I'm on their side. As we're walking over to my workstation, Melanie continues to spew her propaganda, claiming that they got all these memories from the DNA of a generous donor, Desmond Miles.
We're diving into the memories of one very generous donor, Desmond Miles.
You say that.
But we can finally then get back to the good stuff with Edward and Steed as they arrive in Havana, where we got into our first of many of Black Flag's infamous tailing missions. I'm pretty confident this is a change we'll see when they remake the game. I bet there will be a lot less of these tailing missions. I don't think they need to remove them completely, but definitely tone them down by like 80 to 90%. But after several minutes of walk and talk, Steed and I stop by the shop to get ourselves some weaponry. And yet, somehow, he's already lost after claiming to know the area, so I climb on top of this building to get a better view. And in the 3 seconds I was gone, Steed managed to get robbed. So one murder later, and we're on our way to the local pub. Somehow, within 10 seconds of being there, Edward not only manages to get recognized as a pirate, but also starts a fight with the entire pub. The fact this guy was able to recognize Edward while drunk, and back then when there's no photographs or anything, is seriously impressive. Maybe he has a photographic memory, I don't know. But naturally, this is a forced combat section, so I have no choice but to pummel these guys, and I have to escape the area and run from the guards with a smoke bomb. I do that rather easily and blend in with these fine folks, completing the mission. But while I was gone, the soldiers were picking on Steed and stole his sugar, along with Edward's precious cargo that he needs to infiltrate Party City. But poor Steed, man, he's been in Havana 5 minutes and he's been robbed and beaten on separate occasions already. But to find where our cargo was taken, we must engage in a very long tailing mission, which I was actually quite concerned about, as I could very easily be spotted during a tailing mission, whether it be from the guards or some rooftop sniper, so I had to play this very cautiously. Having the video end to a tailing mission would be rather underwhelming. I hired some dancers to blend with, although the guards went into a restricted area, so I eventually had to ditch them and try to follow from the rooftops. However, the con of following from the rooftops is I could be spotted by snipers, so I took out the ones I could with extreme caution. This tailing mission actually felt endless, but eventually the 2 guards started running to watch a hanging, so things picked up a bit. However, as I was chasing them, I came pretty close to being spotted by another sniper on the rooftop. There was nowhere to really hide, so I just had to keep running and hope I got far enough away from his vision cone, which I had. I jumped back down to ground level to avoid further risk of being spotted from above, but now this tailing mission decided it wanted to be even more annoying and make me eavesdrop while I tail. I tried to hire some more dancers, but I didn't have enough money, so I had to move from crowd to crowd, staying blended in. Thankfully, the guards never turned around, or that could have ended badly. We finally made it to the hanging, where the guards extremely conveniently talked about the sugar they stole from Steed Bonnet, and even its location. Thank you, writers. But now I had to tail the captain in order to get the key to the storehouse. My goodness, does it ever end? Luckily, this tailing mission was far shorter, and all I had to do now was steal the key from the captain, which wasn't so difficult since I noticed he's on a set path that just loops over and over. So all I had to do was set myself up in a secluded area I knew he would eventually make his way over to, so I could steal the key. I climbed up onto the rooftops. I was terrified this guard may turn around at any second, so I sprinted at him and killed him as fast as I could. I then hid in the haystack and waited for the captain to come back, which he eventually did. And I could have just pickpocketed the key from him, but I was worried the game may somehow bug out and he'll turn around or something and detect me, so I figured it was safer to just knock him out and loot the key myself. But key in hand, I now had to sneak my way through this heavily guarded fort and make it to the little storehouse at the top of the wall. And this was by far going to be my most demanding challenge yet. This fort is loaded with guards, and there aren't many favorable entry points. I decided to try and go around the side entrance, hoping to avoid most of the guards. However, I was not aware there was a sniper overlooking the area on top of the wall, and he came extremely close to spotting me. So I just hopped down into the water and went under until his detection meter faded. And then I had to patiently wait for him to leave the area so I could climb up. That was definitely the closest call I had so far, but with the coast now clear, I very cautiously made my way into the fort. Now, Black Flag doesn't have wall hacks eagle vision like a lot of its successors, where you can see guards through walls. However, it does have the mini-map, which very accurately displays where all the enemies in the area are. So that's what I was relying on for my information. I waited for a brute to pass by so I could take him out, but just with my luck, the second I leave cover to go after him, he turns around. Yeah, that was insanely close, and I have no idea what happened to his body here. Edward knocked him into a different dimension for a second. But with my heart sunk to the floor, I took out the other guard in front of me and proceeded to the inner courtyard. This was once again going to be difficult because there were 3 guards in the courtyard, and I needed to get to the stairs on the right to get up towards the top of the wall. I tried whistling this guard over for a cover assassination, but he wasn't in range, so I just had to do my best to try and run past everyone without being seen. One of the brutes nearly saw me, but I was able to run up the stairs just out of his range. But unfortunately, in my haste, I was terribly unaware of just what waited for me at the top of the fort. There was a rooftop sniper looking in my direct vicinity, so I ran close to the wall only for another guard to turn around and look directly at me. I turned the other way to put some distance between us, only for another guard on the other side to start detecting me. So I turned to run down the stairs, but instead of just simply running, Edward decides to get a mind of his own and does this. So now, with like 80 million guards about to detect me, I start spamming smoke bombs. I then get flanked by another brute from below the stairs. I take him out and desperately try to get into some cover below, where my luck had finally run out.
Of all the money that I had, I spent it in good company.
And with that, the run was over, and there I lay, humiliated and defeated by Party City yet again. I made it about 47 minutes into Black Flag without being spotted, which is far from my worst time in the series thus far, but also quite far from my best as well. Overall, I was pretty disappointed with the outcome because I didn't even get the chance to go through too many stealth missions, but sometimes that's just how it is. It's out of my control. I'm sorry to those of you who were hoping to see me get farther in the game, but that's all the pirate had in him. Not bad when you consider he's not even an assassin yet. But man, we didn't even get the hidden blade yet. Sad times. Regardless though, I want to thank you all for watching and for supporting this series of mine. They're a lot of fun to make, but also quite time consuming, which is why there's such a big gap in time between each one. But thank you for being patient with me. Next is Assassin's Creed 3, which may just be the hardest one yet, I'm not gonna lie. Stealth in that game is not very easy, or that prevalent to be honest, so we'll see how that goes. There's a very good chance I don't even make it to Connor. I'm pretty excited to see how that goes though, it should be hard. But if you guys enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like. I've also made a bunch of other videos like this in the series for the other games if you're interested in checking those out. A special thank you to my members as always, and other than that, thanks for watching, and stay stealthy out there, assassins.
I should rise, and you should. I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you all.